And a very pleasant good evening,
Brevard
ladies and
College.
gentlemen. Welcome to this edition of Tornado Talk. We're usually here on Monday nights, but here on a Tuesday night following a Memorial Day weekend, and an all-football edition of Tornado Talk this evening. Glad to be joined by three Brevard College football coaches. Head coach Bill Kyatt. Coach, welcome to the program.
Appreciate you having me, Phil. I would be thrilled to have the opportunity to be sitting with you in Dugan's Pub right about now, but due to the circumstances, this will have to suffice.
Very good. And also joined by defensive coordinator and also in charge of the cornerbacks, Coach Luke Jakes. Coach Jakes, thanks for joining the show.
Thanks for having me.
And the man on your bottom right corner on the StreamYard system here is newly appointed assistant head coach and special teams coordinator, also in charge of the safeties, Jaron Gavea. Coach Gavea, thanks for joining the program.
Thanks, Phil. Looking forward to it.
Well, if we can just start with kind of a check-in with each of you guys. Obviously, unusual situation here, and we're phoning in from all sorts of locations. Just want to hear from you, your family, and where you are indeed tuning in from. Coach Kyatt, we'll start with you.
I'm currently at my home in Mesa, Arizona, with my wife and two kids, one of which just graduated from high school just a few days ago, and actually had a very nice ceremony, believe it or not, still keeping social distancing rules and mass gathering. And so very proud of her as she's on her way to Northern Arizona University in the fall, and getting to enjoy some time with my son. He's always busy with lacrosse and sports and everything else. And now with that downtime, really getting a chance to visit, learn, grow, and hey, Dad gets to be home. Most of my time, obviously, spent in Brevard with my other family, which is the Brevard football coaching staff and players.
Very good. And Coach Jakes, how about yourself?
Right now I'm in Phoenix, Arizona. I'm actually specifically in Arcadia, but actually just changed our bathroom faucets at my girlfriend's place. So just been kind of doing stuff around the house and keeping up with recruiting and keeping up with our current players, every day, and just basically doing the same thing we always do, but just remotely, and just still trying to learn. And was actually able to do a video chat with one of the coaches at University of Georgia, and recently, like a week ago, and kind of learn what they do defensively. But same stuff, just been doing it remotely.
And Coach Gavea?
I'm holding it down in Brevard, North Carolina. Been here with my two daughters and my wife, and this past weekend was the first weekend we got away. Got to see some family, so that was nice. But haven't been doing much down here, just staying low and staying busy with, like Coach Jake said, with working, recruiting. Got a really impressive 2020 class coming in, so we're just trying to finalize some guys and really anxious to get to work, get back with our guys on campus.
Yeah, can't wait to hear of all the plans and, all that, the outlook of Brevard College football. But before we get started that, I'd be remiss without a look back at the historic 2019 season, most successful season in Brevard College football history, 8-2 record, a bowl win at the Scotty Whitelaw Bowl up in Pittsburgh, part of the ECAC championship. Would like to hear just kind of top of mind, 1,000-foot thoughts from each of you as far as the significance of last season. Coach Kyatt, we'll start with yourself.
It was the players finally understanding the big picture. So when we came in 2017, all of the different elements we wanted to implement to teach a group how to be a champion, you couldn't really do all of that at once because it would be far too overwhelming. So we had to be patient and take it one step at a time. And yeah, take some lumps here and there, have a few failures along the way, but learn from those failures and see how making the proper adjustments would lead to success. So, for example, one of my most proud moments of the fall was that this team accumulated well over 500 hours of community service. And just understanding how just that one aspect alone made them appreciate life, made them appreciate the gift they were given to be able to play college football and take that opportunity and go with it. So that is just one of many elements that allowed us to be 8-2 and Scotty Whitelaw champions.
And Coach Jake's defensive coordinator of that club, school records and interceptions, takeaways, points allowed, one of the staunchest defenses in all of NCAA Division III. From the defensive side of things, I'm sure you were very pleased with last season, right, Coach?
Yeah, very pleased. It was extremely gratifying on a macro level, on a micro level, but as well on a macro level. Just the sense of being very successful, but also with the individuals, Coach Goulet and I have been coaching that back end, and just to see the success that they had and have them buy in, and just on and off the field, it was just extremely rewarding. It's hard to kind of articulate, but it's obviously extremely rewarding with the numbers and the wins and everything, but it's also just from an individual relationship basis with your players and your group. It's just extremely rewarding also to be able to work with these young men and see them grow, because, Coach Kite and I talk about it all the time. Kids from 18 to 22, we always say we think it's the second most important time of their lives, besides 0 to 4 in their development, because it kind of projects what they're going to do for the next 40 years. And just to see them grow as human beings, as well as football players, was just extremely rewarding, and kind of to see our fruits of our labor as a staff. So many guys have worked so hard for 3 years, and finally to kind of see it on paper with being 8-2 was just huge for us.
And Coach Gavea, working with that defense, with the safeties in particular, and helping set some of those records, but also your unit, the special teams unit, coming up big in some key spots throughout the season. Overall thoughts on your areas of expertise?
Well, first off, I'd like to say, it wasn't a surprise that we had the season we had. Coming off of last year, being the strength and conditioning coach past 3 years, saw the shift in the buy-in and the culture of the players in the offseason. They came back ready to go for our conditioning test. We had more players pass than previous years, which was a good sign, although we'd like to have more than what did pass. But thought they were prepared. They took their offseason seriously. So I was expecting a big year, and then just putting in the hard work and everything that the coaching staff does and the hours we put in. The upperclassmen, the players that finally developed and grew, took leadership, and it was fun, man. We just had a lot of fun winning. I'll remember the smiles and the joy of seeing those kids win all those games, and then obviously get a taste of a champion. We hype that all the time, and we tell those boys, if you work hard, if you buy into what we're doing and trust the process, you'll be successful in whatever you do. But for them to get a taste of that championship, I'm really looking forward to this next season and what they're going to be capable of. But to speak on the special teams unit, I was very pleased. I was excited. Each week we had opportunities that we were able to capitalize on. The players, as we continued to make plays throughout the year, kept buying in. And each week, it showed in practice. Coach Kayat, he gets at least 25 minutes of practice for special teams, which, we take advantage of and try to be as efficient as possible. But they're learning the techniques, they're applying them in the game, and, them just playing with effort and passion takes care of the rest. And, I was really excited for them to make plays. I think in the bowl game, we had a lot of big plays, but it all just came together at the end. And so really pleased with the special teams. I'm even more excited, for these guys, because they're even older now coming into this camp this fall. A lot of opportunities to come. So I'm excited for the future too.
Yep, Coach Kite, a young team, very small senior class graduating. So much of this team that got to experience this ECAC bowl game and this record-setting season will be back this fall. How big is that to have, the nucleus of your team coming back?
Well, now that I've had some experience in Division III football and been able to do some research and talk to fellow coaches, it seems that, outside of the national platform champions that every year of the Mary Hardin Baylors and the Mount Unions, when you break it down really by conferences, most of the time, the conference winners are very heavy senior class. And heavy meaning 26, 28, 32. So kids that have been around the program for 4 years, some of them maybe even playing for 4 years. We only had 3 players on our roster run out of eligibility at the end of this year. So for that one reason alone, I think that there should be an extreme amount of excitement for what could come in the fall. Now, one thing also to understand is that Division III is a very transient level of football, meaning kids, will fall out for various reasons. So even though there will be some players that were a part of that championship team last year that won't be returning despite having eligibility, we have been able to replace with some high quality individuals that I think will contribute significantly to our success. But certainly knowing that we finally have a senior class that our coaching staff was a part of bringing in. So when you see Wesley Ross out there on the field, he was a part of that original class. When you see Chason Lowry, and you'll see player after player on our roster that now have been with Coach Jakes, with Coach Gavea, and with Coach Kayat for 3 full seasons, now going on their 4th.
And Coach Jakes and Coach Gavea, I'd imagine recruiting looked a little different this season, coming off such a big year compared to years past, where you probably had to do a lot more salesmanship in years past versus this year, where you really had a huge success story to tell, the 2019 record-breaking season.
Yeah, a lot easier to sell, just to kind of show that we already did it. You know what I mean? A few years ago, recruiting, we're talking about building a new culture and, really starting something new, which is exciting in its own right, but it's still kind of all potential, right? So then we finally had a season that we were very successful with, and now it's like, look, this is it. Like, this is the potential realized, and now we're here, and now this culture is created, and now this train is moving, and it's, if you want to get on, if not, not. So it's been easier recruiting, as well as even just from practical senses now, just knowing a lot more coaches in the area and knowing the Georgia area better, and just the local high schools, and just getting recognition from that. Now people have heard about us and know that we've had some success, and it's just become easier. So I will say that.
Anything to add there, Coach Gavea?
Yeah, I agree with everything Coach Jake said. When we first got here, it was a hard sell. It wasn't much going on with Tornado football, but we believed in our mission and our vision for what was to come. The players that got on board, we developed them, and Kaya just talked about those individuals. Recruiting this past season has been a lot more fun. There's a lot more exciting things to talk about. Opportunities for these players. We got more players getting scouted now, which I got to talk to when we talk to some really good talent that want to come play and be part of what we're doing. They do have those ambitions, and so to be able to just talk about the success that we've had, the players trusting the coaching staff that's here. It's been a lot of fun. Recruiting this season a lot easier than the past, for sure.
Coach Kayat, Coach Jakes talked in the early days of having to describe, getting started with a culture and developing a culture. Now that the culture has been in place for a few years, how do you describe the culture that's in place for Brevard College football?
Well, incomplete. Okay. And the reason that I say that is what I alluded to earlier, how there are still segments that we have left either untouched or simply scratched the surface of. So it's, when I talk about the big picture, I try to teach it like taking a picture with a camera. If you take a picture that's out of focus, you can probably make out some images in there. I think I see a tree. I think I see a deer. I think there's some grass. But it's not really sharp. It's not vivid images. Okay, so that's where we are now, is that we have finally made it to these images that are sharp and vivid. But now that we have that picture, we can now zoom in and see all of the various details that go into making that picture the right way. So now, once we can really clean that up, you'll see things that you've never seen ever before in Brevard college football history, things that you could never think even possible. And that's where we are setting our goals now, because it would be unrealistic in 2017 to say we're going to go 8-2 and then go to a bowl game. That's not a realistic goal. And as much as coaches, we don't ever go out there to lose one game. I have never game planned and said, okay, what can I do to figure out a way to lose? Never. So the competitor in all of us, we are trying to win, but then there's the reality of it. And I think that the players understand that I, as a head coach, am a straight shooter. So I just tell them like it is. And I always speak in facts because those can't be denied. And I think they appreciate that about me. And then I, in turn, have the staff that follows along with what I do. And none of this culture could have ever been possible without the best coaching staff in Division III. Heck, maybe in all of NCAA. And, I know that sounds a bit boastful, but to me, it's honest. I mean, I really sought out all the best out there. And I have guys that are all coaching for the right reasons. If you're coaching football for the pay, get out of the profession immediately, because you're here to change the lives, as Coach Jakes mentioned earlier, between 18 and 22 years old. What an important window of time. So to have the opportunity to mentor these players, to get them to understand what life will be like after college, and along the way, enjoy the exhilaration of victory. And that's what we wanted to provide for them, but we don't want this to be a flash in the pan. So I don't want people 10 years from now to be saying anything about the 2019 team other than that's what got the ball rolling.
Makes a lot of sense, Coach. And you talked about your staff, which has just been outstanding these last few seasons. You talked about how the
Would you mind repeating that, Phil? The downfalls to the video calls.
I think we're back.
Yeah, there he is.
All right, we got everybody back here.
Yeah.
This is the
Yeah.
dangers and the kind of the challenge of this virtual format. But it looks like we've got everybody back. Coach Kyatt, Coach Jakes, and Coach Gavea. Coach Kyatt, I'm not sure if you caught that last question, but
No, all I heard was the first word.
The staff and how it's your responsibilities are delegated throughout the staff.
Right. Well, what is crucial to success is to making sure that you have the right people in place, meaning ones with good intentions, ones that are self-motivated. You need people that you don't need to micromanage. And I think that, these coaches can attest to that about me. I let them know what I need and when I need it. And I don't need to see an outline. I don't need to see a rough draft. I don't need to see anything. Just when that particular project is due, I expect it to be the best project I have ever seen in the history of football. And that's what I have, because I have coaches that are accountable. And if you look at our keys to success, our team would have no success if my coaches didn't follow those same keys to success. The next important thing is to make sure that I, as a head coach, understand each one of my assistant coaches and what strengths they have. So much like a football coach, so if Coach Gavea is putting together a special teams project, or Coach Jakes is putting together a defensive game plan, you're not going to ask a player to do something that they're kind of okay at. You're going to ask them to do something that they can do with their eyes closed. They're so good at it. So when I delegate to the staff, I know who can do what very well. And yes, at times I'll challenge them. But I can see each individual. I monitor everything. You know, something I learned from Dennis Green, I watch when they don't know I'm watching. And I've seen the things that they are doing when they don't know they're being tested. And from that alone, that allows me to make the right choices in delegating the work. And with the two other guys on this call right now, you can see I was right by their body of work, not just this past season, but over the past 3 seasons.
All right, looks like we're back here live. Thanks again, guys, for enduring these technical challenges. I have a question here from a member of the faculty, Tim Powers, big supporter of Brevard College athletics. Dr. Powers, appreciate you chiming in here. Coaches, how are we looking this year? Returners and new impact players. Can you give an overview? I'd love to hear from each of you on this one.
I'll go.
Jared, you want to start off?
Oh, go ahead, Jared.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and go. To speak on some of the returners coming back, defensively, we lost 2 senior D tackles up front. Obviously their leadership and their hard work that they put in, we're going to miss. But we've replaced those 2 players with some really talented and, some guys that are coming in who will be incoming freshmen. Still got some other D tackles in the mix, but exciting guys up front. I think as linebacker core and, speaking on some defensive guys, just myself, got some guys coming in again that could be impact players right away. I got my returners at safety, which I'm excited for, but, some young guys are coming up. I think Logan Akins and Tay Sullivan are 2 young bucks that are coming up that could be potential impact players for us this year, defensively and on special teams. I'll let Coach Kayat talk about, some of the offensive guys as, his stuff goes, and Coach Jakes to talk about some defensive corners too coming in.
The offense, as I think anybody that watched any game, whether it was through the internet or there in person, saw some of the struggles that the offense had this past season. And after back-to-back seasons, 2017 and 2018, setting every record that Brevard College has ever had, was definitely disappointing to those players on the offense, and especially when we had arguably the best defense in the history of the conference. It was difficult for them to try to keep pace, and I feel like a lot of those guys were trying to do more than what they needed to do. And so after having that season, I think it'll be extremely beneficial to every one of our returners, because now they have something that's tangible, and now they can look at it and see, yes, I totally get it. And I think that if you watched our game against Carnegie Mellon and back it up a week before to Greensboro, you see that the offense, the light finally went on to understand what it was they were doing wrong and how that led to poor performance on the field. But thrilled that we have the players that we have returning. I mean, you're going to have a quarterback that now would be a 3-year starter in college football. As your quarterback goes, so goes your team. If you watch that Scotty Whitelaw Bowl, just keep handing the ball off. Somebody's going to take it 80 yards for a touchdown. So we got incredible speed in the backfield, whether that be Aaron Bennett and Mitchell Yoder, and we got powerful runners like Jamie Turner and DJ Taylor. I mean, the list goes on and of guys that I can mention. And then talk about the perimeter. We have some weapons now on the outside. I don't know if you've seen Jamariel Parks ever return a kickoff, but it's not like he's any slower as a wide receiver. So, we got some incredible speed. Brandon Norris might be the toughest player pound for pound on our team. He will give everything he possibly has to ensure the success of the unit. So great players there. Offensive line now, coached by Everett Lindsay, who started at all 5 positions on that offensive line in the National Football League, knows the positions so well, and very good at putting those guys in the right spot. So when he puts together a run game package, or he puts together pass protection, he knows the exact things that the guys can do, and he knows their limitations. So our center that makes all the calls, this will be his 4th year. So hard to call him Nick Eubanks, Weeb Eubanks to us, but he'll be back, and what a nice reassuring thing it is to have him in that position where he identifies all of the defense to try to take a pressure off the quarterback and the other members of the offensive line. And then, of course, the tight end, the position I coach, I was stoked to see all 4 of those guys make either the dean's list or the honor roll. So they did a heck of a job in spring ball. So we'll see if that brain can trigger that quickly out on the field and do some great things for us this fall.
Great. Coach Jakes, anything to add as far as a specific outlook, guys coming back, newcomers?
Yeah, I guess for my position group, I think it's very unique in the sense that, we returned 2 3-year starters, Quentin Jackson and Andreas Wyatt, and they actually both got injured in the same game in the same quarter against Methodist, and then we had to end up starting 3 true freshmen, Tyler Harrison, Jock Pledger, and Brooke Tate. And, those guys ended up, especially towards the back half of the season, we did really, really well. So Andreas Wyatt and Quentin Jackson come back along with, those freshmen that got a lot of experience and were very successful. I think it'll be extremely powerful group. And you just never know with a lot of guys. Every year guys come out of nowhere, especially from freshman to sophomore year. I think guys take a huge jump physically as well as mentally and emotionally. So, we got tons of guys defensively that can make a huge impact. And I always tell guys all the time, whether it's we're recruiting or a starter that's coming back, the positions are wide open. So the best player will play. It's that simple. And one thing I will say, though, I think that was attributed to a lot of success we had. I think objectively, our best 2 players this year on defense was Stephon Kennedy and Dante Anderson. They had the most accolades and the most accomplishments. And I will say that those were probably, ironically, I guess maybe not ironically, the 2 hardest workers I personally saw, and how much they worked in the weight room and how good they wanted to be. And it reminded me of, Greg Popovich, when he coached the San Antonio Spurs, he always talked about, why were you guys so successful? And he said, my best players were my hardest workers and our best leaders. And I think been super blessed. We've been super blessed to have such good and talented players, but at the same time, they're such great men. And I know for those 2, for other people to look up to and know that that's the bar they have to get to be really good is huge for us, because we don't have star players that are jerks. We have star players that are great human beings and, wise beyond their years. And so that's a huge weapon. And to have those 2 guys come back, and a lot of guys come back, it's going to be extremely exciting, and the recruits we have coming in. So I'm extremely excited for this year.
Yeah, Stephon Kennedy and Dante Anderson, both first-team All-ECAC and nominees for the Cliff Harris Award, which is a prestigious defensive award for the small colleges. Also, Rook Tate, 2 interceptions in that Scotty Whitelaw ball, including a pick 6. And Coach mentioned running back Aaron Bennett, 2 touchdowns, 145 yards in that ECAC bowl win. So, all sorts of stars from the big season in 2019 coming back. A lot to be excited for. And one more thing here to be excited for is Patrick Hall points out, Tornado football is coming on campus to the campus of Brevard College. Very exciting news. If you If you take a drive through campus, you'll notice there's some construction going on, not only an expansion of Ives Lamel Family Field, the turf field, which will allow for on-campus home games, but also a new field house, which will be the home of a Tornado football locker room and also all sorts of meeting space and classroom space for the exercise science program. A lot to be excited about as far as, what's happening there with the construction on campus. Coach Kyatt, we'll get you started on this one. Big news for NATO Nation, right?
And it's becoming a reality. I saw the goalposts going up today. So this is a wonderful deal. And one thing I can say for certain is that our jobs as motivators in the coaching profession has gotten a lot easier. And the reason I say that is that our practice fields are in the grass back behind the track and the softball field. And anytime we've had to make a move, typically due to soaking wet grass for safety reasons, and we move onto the turf to practice, there is a natural high that these players get when they get out on that turf, and all of a sudden practice becomes an entirely different speed. So when you're preparing for an opponent, you have to practice at your best and not try to just fight through a practice. Well, the energy that is on that field during practice is wild. And I can't even imagine once it's real, okay, and now you have students just walking out of a dorm and standing right out there being able to see. And, for the community to know that this is now a part of our campus. So as beautiful as the setting was at Brevard High School, I mean, very, very nice place to play football. There is nothing like truly being at home. And, there's numerous college teams that, you can see the difference from when they played, even if it was a big time NFL stadium or something off campus. There's nothing like the thrill of playing truly at home.
Coach Gavay and Coach Jakes, I see you guys both nodding your head here. I'm sure you're talking to recruits and also the returning players. Kids have got to be excited about this.
You want to go, Jaron? Okay.
Yeah, I'll go. Yeah, very exciting. I mean, I got kids reaching out to me to get recruited because they saw that new facilities were coming to Brevard College. So when we talked about recruiting being easier, I mean, it's getting a lot easier. But very exciting. I think the kids, will take pride now that they have something that's brand new that they earned and worked hard for. I'm excited for them. Here we're supposed to have some nice football offices in there, so that'll be nice to have my own space, to do work and be able to show recruits and meet with people one-on-one. So a lot of implications with the new stuff, but it'll help with the recruiting. It'll definitely bring our program on the top of one of the best programs in North Carolina. Just having the all three facilities, education, and great football team. So very exciting.
Yeah, extremely exciting. Ironically, like Coach Kyatt alluded to, we saw pictures of the goalposts going up, and that was so exciting. And it actually is such a beautiful campus and such a beautiful area. I don't think it does justice, pictures. So when you're there and you see the backdrop of the mountains and the Blue Ridge Mountains and the Smoky Mountains, it's amazing. So the fact that we could play on campus, I think the kids are going to be super fired up, and I can't wait. I'm so excited. I'm so excited for this year. It's the most excited I've been. So I can't wait.
Yeah, the expansion of the turf field to allow for the on-campus playing of Brevard College football, and then also the field house, a 10,000. Guys all back here with me?
Yeah.
I appreciate you again enduring these technical problems, but I was just telling folks even more about the field house, how it's going to, not only be home of the football locker rooms, but as Coach mentioned, also some meeting space and football coaches' offices, but also the home of the exercise science program and some laboratory space for that program. I know that's a valuable major where we're developing a lot of future coaches and athletic trainers, strength coaches, that kind of thing. Would either of you guys like to expound on that area, the exercise science program, and how that meshes with the football student athlete experience?
Yeah, Phil, I'll go ahead and dive in on this one. I was actually a part of the administrative task force to help write the proposal for the Health and Human Performance Masters program we're rolling out that's going to use this space. Exciting part about this space, not only will they have their own space and to be able to house their equipment and everything that they use for the exercise science and human science programs, the majors, but it'll help us have graduate students within that master's program that will be able to, at some capacity, be what you would consider strength conditioning coaches or graduate assistants. And so we'll have GA strength coaches. They'll be able to use those equipment. So when we have incoming freshmen and we talk about really tracking a player's progress and development, we'll have the tools and resources to be able to do that with this space, which will only just make our program better with the physical development and really letting the kids have that scientific data that shows you, hey, this hard work's paying off each off season. You're coming back, stronger, faster, lower body percentage. So some of those things will actually have a team of people be able to help us with those efforts and, give the guys what they deserve. I mean, all the resources that these Division I programs and colleges and universities are able to have, this is close to what you can get at Division III level. And so match that with our Volt training program and our nutritional aspects that we have within that program and what we do as a staff. I think you're going to see the development of our players physically increase over time as we get going with all that. So very exciting stuff. But again, it's always going back to the student athletes and the players. And so that's the best part about the new space.
Exercise science, obviously a attractive major for any future football student athlete, but there's plenty of other offerings at Brevard College. We heard from Dr. Powers with the Criminal Justice Department, but other majors that I know are popular and attractive for football student athletes. Coach Kyatt, Coach Jakes, can you talk even further what you're hearing from the football student athletes, what the best fit is academically at Brevard College for them?
Well, I'll let Coach Jakes talk specifically about majors, but I will say this, that the players are most interested in the experiential learning and the student-teacher ratio. That is far and above anything else that appeals to them when they think about Brevard College. So, just far too many times, a lot of these students just get lost in the shuffle because you're just a body in there. Heck, half the people don't even know your name. And you go to some of these other colleges and you can be in there with 300 people and you're watching a TA teach on a screen because you're sitting in the back of the theater room. And the fact that you can be in such an intimate setting with an instructor, and an extremely knowledgeable one at that, gives them the best opportunity to succeed in college. So that's one aspect that really has them drawn to Brevard College. Then the experiential learning, not having to memorize things all the time, really being hands-on with what it is that they do. And anytime you have an experience, far more likely to remember the experience than you are to remember the memorization. So I think that's an extremely important element. And now with this third segment that we really have set in place now with our study hall program, it now gives even more structure to these students that, could be spooked going in, thinking about college courses and how difficult they may be. But, with Angie Mascaro and Brandon Smith and their whole team of learning consultants, Coach Kruzik's done an extremely phenomenal job. as the academic success coordinator to set all of these things in place for these players to be successful. So regardless of a major, not to be spooked, because some kids really don't know at 18, and some kids think they know, and all of a sudden at 19 they're doing something entirely different. So I'm just extremely grateful for what we have in place here at Brevard to ensure student success.
Yeah, I actually tell kids a lot about when they don't know what they're going to do their freshman year. I actually tell them that's a good thing, because they can come to college and do a lot of prerequisites or do some core classes and kind of figure out what they want to do. For instance, like when I came out of high school, I thought I wanted to be a history major, and I still love history. But once I finally took a psychology class, I was sold. But Brevard offers a lot of great majors. I'm obviously biased. I think our criminal justice program is very good, and I think it's nationally recognized. And I tell kids about how great of a system that is, and how great of a job and career people can get into going through that program. So it's been an easy sale, and like Coach Kyatt alluded to, the 14-to-1 teacher-to-student ratio is always an easy sell in recruitment towards parents and everything. So I think it's an easy sell at Brevard as far as the beauty of the area goes, as well as all the majors that you could do, and also the experiential learning and the small classroom sizes. Easy sell for recruiting to parents.
Very good. Well, we'll close with this. Would like to go around the horn, but before we do that, one more question from one of our viewers from Morgan. What coaches have influenced each of you in your career? I'm interested to hear this one as well. You guys can take it one at a time. Influences and inspirations, the guys that you looked up to and molded you into the coaches you are today.
All right, well, I'll go ahead and take the lead on that. Most people would probably assume my father, since he played 10 years in the National Football League, then coached 25. I was also a head coach in the National Football League for the Philadelphia Eagles. However, my father was not a coach to me. He was my dad. So very rarely did we talk football specifics. I mean, he was really a parent to me. So for me, when it comes to teaching, okay, because that's what you do as a coach, I always thought from the time that I was old enough to remember knowing that somehow I wanted to be a teacher in some form. I always would sit in a class and really like something that a particular teacher was doing, but then that same teacher may be doing something that I didn't like at all. So what I did over time was create a highlight reel of all the best coaches that I've ever had, and the things that appealed to me, things that I was drawn to, and took all of those components and put them into one style of coaching. Now, if you look at my coaching style and two coaches in my history, you would definitely say, okay, that's where he got that from. So one would be my high school basketball coach. So coach's name was Mike Peasy, and he was the number one best coach I have ever been around in any sport at any time. So even though that was basketball, what he taught was being prepared for the opponent. So it didn't matter that he scouted the opponent and all they showed was a 1-3-1 zone defense. We're practicing a box and one, a triangle and two. I mean, everything. They didn't show full court press. Well, we're practicing against it. What if we get it? So we were always prepared for the opponent. But the other great thing about him was knowing how to motivate each individual player. So he'd have to give a speech to 12 of us. But how does that speech resonate with all 12 when all these kids have different backgrounds, different ideas, different thoughts? So what he was able to do was give, yes, a general speech to all to get everyone motivated. But he knew how to talk to each player on an individual level and knew how to motivate them. So one person might need to hear a loud voice and tell them they need to do better. Somebody else might need an arm around the shoulder and tell them you can do better than that. For me, he knew all he had to do was say, Kyatt, I thought you were a better athlete than that. And the second he said that, boy, I got madder than heck and just wanted to show him how good I really was. So that element there, you can see that in my coaching style. Now, what that did for us was win 57 straight basketball games. We state championships. We go out to play an opponent. One of the biggest things you ever see in a team is a team that's really good will play to the level of their opponent. So all of a sudden, they don't play so well against teams that aren't that good. And he would tell us, look, if you're really that good, they shouldn't score a point. And it'd be basketball. It'd be 35-0 before the opponent would score a point. So that's one element. And then the other coach that really had a huge influence on how I operate is Dennis Green. And I tell people all the time what an incredible human being he really was. And like, when it comes to things, especially in professional sports, a lot of times people just like people because they like the team or they like the jersey number or they dislike somebody because it's a team. So, just as being a former player, oh, I love so-and-so, he's so great. Well, why do you like him? Because I know him on a personal level. So like, why is it that you like him? So there may be a lot of things about how Dennis Green functioned that, many don't know if they weren't around him. But he really did watch every single thing that every single person did at all times. So he actually cut someone from the football team because he didn't like their body language. So he could see that they kept, it was their turn to go in an individual drill. All of a sudden they had to tie their shoe. So 3 people went in front. Then all of a sudden the guy had to adjust his shoulder pads, never went. Then he needed a drink of water. So for the entire individual drill, he never went, ever. So that right there tells you that's not the kind of guy I can win with, And he was also all about giving guys second chances. So a lot of the guys that helped him be successful may not have always made the best choices, but once they got under his wing, he taught them the right way to do things. And they believed in him, they trusted in him, so they followed his direction. And once they followed it and they saw that everything turned out just fine, then all of a sudden he's going 15-1 and, all these great records that he set as a head coach. So I know that was rather lengthy, but I just wanted to give a reason why rather than just throwing out those names. And thanks for the question, Morgan.
Coach Jakes, love to hear from you on this one as well.
Yeah, actually, ironically, when I was playing in Pop Warner, I was coached by 5 police officers, and they were Phoenix detectives, and just great human beings. And actually, my 8th grade year, I think a lot of people don't know this. I don't think Coach Gove and Coach Kite know this, but we actually won a national championship for Pop Warner, and I was actually the quarterback and played safety. But those guys were just, such good human beings, and they did it for free. And I learned so much football, but also just being a man and just growing. And so I attribute a lot of my success to them, and I really enjoyed playing for them. And then, I went out through high school and had some great coaches, Coach Sanchez, Coach Sacamel. Then I played in college, coach for Coach Medowski, who's still a big time coach in Arizona at the junior college level, as well as the high school level. But also a big thing for me has been the coaches coaching coaches. And first, when I went to Scottsdale, I was coached by Brandon Moore, who played for the 49ers for 7 years. And then now he's the defensive coordinator for Colorado School of Mines, which actually rated #1 in Division II for defenses. And he was a big influence on me. We're still really good friends, and actually talked to him the other day. And, he taught me a lot of life lessons as well as a lot of football knowledge. So extremely grateful for his friendship. And then also, last but not least, but Coach Kayat, he's been such an influence for me and really gave me that first opportunity as a full-time job for me 3 years ago, because before that, it was just a stipend position. I had to work other jobs and teach swim lessons and work at call centers. And so Coach Kayat gave me my first full-time job 3 years ago, which was, life-altering to say the least. And then he gave me the opportunity to be the defensive coordinator this year. And he's been extremely supportive as as a role model on and off the field, and mostly off the field. And he sets the best example anyone can ever set. And I'm obviously extremely grateful for him as well for really kind of making my career. And so those were the biggest influences for me.
I'll go next. I've been very fortunate to have some of the best coaches. I mean, even from my Pop Warner days, like Coach Jake said, more so role models, just family men that I was able to learn from. I mean, football was one thing, but life was another. And I was always in an environment, in a team that truly was family. And, I got that from those coaches back then. Now, in my high school days, that was a program and a culture that was family oriented as well. Coach Mickey Thompson at Stonebridge High School in Northern Virginia, and the staff that he's had over the years, and as they've grown and developed as a program, former players come back and coach. And so, I've always been fortunate to be in that football is family environment. And, those coaches did a lot for me as far as, the discipline and learning how to be a leader myself, and learning from them. And then obviously, playing my collegiate career at Virginia Tech under Frank Beamer and his coaching staff, and the best coaches in the country. I think I model a lot of my coaching philosophies from Bud Foster, my defensive coordinator at the time. As far as the expectations and level of the demand that the sport, requires, and, being able to challenge and push my players to their full potential like he did to us. And then I was fortunate to have, Torian Gray, who recruited me out of high school, All-American, played in the NFL. I learned a lot from him as far as the secondary is concerned, in the game, playing anticipated football and preparation that goes into being the best. And Cornell Brown was another position coach I had my third year in, and he really broke the game down in the box, because Coach Foster had a 4-2-5 defense. I was a rover, whip, linebacker, nickel type position. So I played both safety and nickel. And so I was able to learn a lot from Coach Cornell Brown as far as, the game, breaking it down, run fits in the box. They really, completed my mental IQ of football on the defensive side, and understanding what the offense is trying to do. But taking that to the field, I don't think anyone's worked me harder in our individuals as Coach Brown. I mean, All-American at Virginia Tech, Super Bowl champion of the Baltimore Ravens. He played with Ray Lewis, one of the best linebackers ever to play. And he had some drills for us. And, so I learned a lot as far as the work ethic that goes into preparing to be the best and trying to be the best that you can be. And then, as a professional, getting into the college ranks, my father, Kirk DeVea, I've been fortunate to work side by side with him early in my career, starting at University of Hawaii, when Coach Norm Chow, brought me on, and I was fortunate to get my foot in the door in college football, thanks to him. But learned a lot through my experiences, and, eventually coming here and getting to work with the staff that we've had. Some guys have left, but, since coming to Brevard College, I've learned a lot about myself as a coach. I've learned a lot just getting to know each and every one of my staff members at a personal level. I feel like, I get opportunities to sit down with guys and get to know them better, which only helps my perspective in coaching and understanding and being better for myself. And then, of course, everything that Coach Jake said about Coach Kyatt, giving me the opportunity, challenging us and giving us opportunities to climb the ladder, to prove yourself. And, we've always been under his vision, and he said he leads by example and sets the tone as far as how we want to work, being efficient, being professional, and, trying to be the best that we can be at all times. And so it's just been I've been fortunate. I really believe I'm supposed to be doing this, and it's because of my upbringing and all the coaches I've had develop me and mold me into the coach I am, player I was. So good question, Morgan. Thank you. Appreciate that one.
Yeah, thank you, Morgan. Great question and great answers from all three of the coaches. Coach Kyatt, we'll let you have the final word here I know a lot of recruits and families and parents of potential college student athletes watch this program. What would your message be to a prospective student athlete who might be a sophomore, junior, or senior in high school, checking out different colleges? Why should that individual become a Brevard College Tornado?
Okay, well, first I'm going to start by addressing the parents, okay, and just know that your child will be well taken care of, because I too am a parent, and my daughter played volleyball in high school, and it's one thing that you're just assigned teammates there because you're in that school district. But if you're going to go away to college to play a sport and you're now 18 years old, well, you're going to have teammates that are 22 and 23. And I just know from personal experience, I don't want my daughter hanging out with people that are 22 and 23 years old, especially if I don't know them. So if you don't have an entire team of great people, who knows who may be influencing your child? So that has always been one point that I have made to my coaches, is to make sure that we look at the backgrounds of these players that we're bringing in and make sure they're just incredible people. So that's kind of the atmosphere that I want as a teammate. And then as far as being a player, okay, I think that anybody out there that has the slightest bit of a competitive bone in their body would want to be a part of success, because this isn't baseball where you get 162 games or whatever to have a regular season. I mean, you get 10. So for us, I've explained this to our own team, that one loss in the season is the equivalent of a 16-game losing streak in baseball. So if you lose 2 games in a row, you've lost 32 consecutive games in baseball. I mean, how the heck do you think you're really turning that season around? So, if you want to be part of a winner, well, now we're proving. It's not just hope. It's not just dream. It's not promise. And then, ultimately you are coming to Brevard to get a college education. And what I can say is that over 40% of our returning roster from this spring made either the honor roll or the dean's list. So we definitely have some incredibly well-rounded individuals on this team.
Well, Coach Kayak, Coach Jakes, Coach Gavea, really appreciate you guys joining us on this evening's Tornado Talk. Can't wait till we can do this in person. And appreciate you weathering the technical difficulties. This is sort of what happens when you try to pull off these broadcasts across the country. But glad you're all able to join us. I know NATO Nation was happy to hear from you all as far as an update on what's going on with Brevard College football. And we got to celebrate one more time that 2019 record-breaking season. Coach Kayak, Coach Gavea, Coach Jakes, thank you again for joining the program.
Thanks for having us.
www.bctornadoes.com for all the latest information. And there's your Instagram and Twitter handles at BC Tornadoes, Facebook and YouTube. Also, be sure to follow Brevard College Tornadoes Athletics. Gentlemen, thank you for joining the program.
Thanks for having us.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Phil.
Thanks, Phil.
All right, thanks, guys. Go Tornadoes.
Thanks, Phil.
All right.
Tornadoes.